Hi, and welcome back to KSW News. I'm Carly Willis, and I'm joined by Mass Media Adjunct Professor Tim Rincher. It's good to have you with us, Mr. Rincher.
Good to be here.
All right, so tell us a little bit about how you got into journalism and what made you decide to do what you do now.
Well, when I was in 7th grade, I won the Shawnee County Spelling Bee, and I learned that there was a job at the Capital Journal for an errand boy, copy boy type of thing. So what happened was I applied for that when I was a sophomore, and I was really taken by how exciting a world the journalism world is. As a journalist, you're looking at everything that's either interesting or important in life. And so I ended up going to college, getting a journalism degree. At this point, I've been at the Topeka Capital Journal 34 years, including the last 28 as a reporter.
Okay, wonderful. And in those 34 years, what was the most exciting story that you can recall reporting? I've
covered a lot of exciting stories. Some of the best are the presidential visits. We've had Bill Clinton here. We've had George Bush here. You've got all these famous media people here. You know, it just seems like everything's a little bit ramped up at that point.
Fair enough. Now, sometimes stories that journalists cover tend to get a little bit dangerous. Have you ever felt scared or nervous in your job?
I went to one story I can recall where there was a chase, and it was at the end of the chase that they brought out the guy that they'd captured, and another guy went up and punched him, and just all hell broke loose. Somebody pulled some Capstun pepper spray. My photographer ended up getting it in the eyes. Oh, no. 2 cops ended up getting it in the eyes. It was a real melee.
Yeah, sounds like it. So what does a typical day at the Capital Journal look like for you?
Well, I currently cover City Council and County Commission, so a lot of days I'll be going to city and county meetings. I'll sit down at the start of the day and have discussions with my editor about what we're going to cover. And then on Tuesday nights, I always cover City Council. Sometimes I'll cover different beats, though. It's not all government. I still handle cops from time to time.
So what are your favorites of everything that you report?
One of the things that I really like, it used to be the exciting stories, you know, running out to a shooting or a car wreck or a fire or something. But my favorite are the stories where I feel like I'm really able to make the world a better place. When for example, I tell people about something that their government's doing that maybe they don't necessarily like, or we've had situations where a family would have a fire and they'd lose everything, and I'd say, could I speak to you? And they'd say, like, give me one reason I should talk to you. I'm like, because I can tell the public that your kids need clothes and they're probably going to donate. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that really is nice about being a journalist. You write something, people do donate.
Yes. So if you're just now joining us on KSW News, I'm here with Adjunct Professor for the Mass Media Department, Tim Rincher. Now, on the other side of your job, when did you realize that you wanted to teach students?
I've been training. I trained people for a lot of years as a law enforcement writer whenever somebody was coming in, and I enjoyed the idea of, you know, trying to get it right, trying to have a list down so that somebody who's starting knows exactly what they need to be doing. And it was told to me, it was like, you'd make a good college professor. And I thought, you know, I'll try that. And I went and got myself a master's degree. And then for a few years, even after I finished the master's, I didn't actually get into teaching because the face of journalism was changing somewhat. Mm-hmm. It wasn't so simple as just you write something that goes in the next day's paper. A lot of web, internet type of stuff was happening. There were questions about the history of print journalism. I think print journalism is kind of leveled out. I think it'll be good. More and more we're being asked. I've done a lot of radio stuff and some TV. So as I got more and more familiar with that, I got more comfortable that, yes, I can tell a 21-year-old college student there is a lot of future in telling the news. People might lose their taste for certain types of coverage, but they're always going to be wanting to learn how to tell the news.
Yes. So how did your first semester go of teaching your Murder, Mayhem, and Media class?
Yeah, the course is called Murder, Mayhem, and Media, yes. Telling Crime Stories. And the focus is essentially on police reporting, what questions they ask, what information they gather, police PR, what those people do, what cops do for a living, and what how the criminal justice system works, essentially. I loved it. You know, I had a class of 22 students that seemed to be pretty much interested in everything. I enjoyed it. A big part of it, I had a guest speaker every week, so I didn't have to do everything. but the class seemed really interested in the topic area.
So on that note, what do you look forward to about teaching every week?
One of the things that I look forward to is finding out what it is that really get my class members stoked. I had a paper during this last semester, and I noticed everybody on this program, I could tell you what your paper, you were in the class, was on BTK.
Yes.
You talked to a reporter who actually had been in communication with BTK when he was a murderer of 10 people on the lam. Trevin, wrote about the coverage of the murder of his neighbor, Patricia Kimmey. Fatima wrote about the Trayvon Martin case. Kira wrote about Bonnie and Clyde. And I mean, reading these papers, usually you think, oh, term papers, this is going to be boring. And I loved the way that class members got so stoked about the topic area.
Now, do I recall from your intro to the class, didn't you kind of have an exciting start to the whole idea of crime and the reporting thereof?
That was my first sentence of the class. Lamar Tibbs was
right.
Lamar Tibbs had decided to kill his brother, and it was all about that story that I told you a few minutes ago, where Lamar was being he did a drive-by at his brother's house, and he was being taken out of the house where he was captured, and the brother punched him, and just everything went crazy.
Yep.
So I thought that was important to let people know at the very start, this is not your typical college class.
Not at all, but it has been my favorite, actually. And so how has teaching made you a different person?
I think to a big point, it's a different, you look at things a little bit of a different way. In the past, when I was getting ready to approach a task, I would just say, how do I do this? And now while I'm going through it, I'm like, okay, say I'm helping somebody, how would I teach this?
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Tim, and we will be back after this.